Yo! Thank you for checking out what I hope is an extremely accessible and effective guide for beginners at Croesus. This is specifically suited for my friends and clanmates in the Carlsberg clan and is intended to be a very simple and straightforward introduction to 4-man teams at Croesus. The goal of this guide is to answer some of your questions and to get you geared up to confidently join a learner-friendly Croesus session. A lot of this information will make more sense once you actually attempt the boss, and this guide is only meant to get you in the front door. I'm going to give you all the essentials right up front, and there's some bonus info at the end, and I'll include a discussion of the loot, helpful items, helpful perks, gear, potions, etc. But right here is the absolute essential gear that you need to bring. First off, you need to have one or more super restore flasks. You can buy them on the GE. If you see them in pictures, they're the red potion, red, pink, magenta potion flask. Flasks because more doses per inventory space. They're not that expensive. This will be your only expense at Croesus. Second, you're going to want to have a good level in either hunter, woodcutting, mining, or fishing. Next, you're going to want a stack of protein logs. I'm sure you've got some sitting in your bank collecting space from treasure hunter promos. Bring some of those. And when I say some, I don't mean bring 5. I mean bring a stack of 100 of them or whatever you've got laying around. And the last thing that you need is you can't be on legacy mode. You have to be on Revolution combat mode, which you're not going to be doing combat, but you'll need keybinds for 3 different abilities: freedom, anticipation, and surge is a really good one to have on a keybind as well. Freedom and anticipation are really important though. So that pretty much wraps it up for absolute essentials. There are other things you could argue that would be really essential to bring or really important. I'll talk about those at the end of the video. For now, as long as you've got your flasks, a skill that you're good at, and some gear for it that you're wearing, 18 open inventory spaces, and some protein logs, freedom and anticipation on keybind, you're good to go. Next, I'll talk a little bit about the mechanics of the fight, and a little bit about the goal of the fight. The fight is usually done with 4 people, sometimes 8, and sometimes in a big mass public instance. Big mass public instance is a nice way to get your first kill or to try things out in a low pressure, high chaos type setting. But the goal of the fight is, when I talk about this, I'm really talking about familiarization. You're not expected to remember all of this. It's just to introduce you to the concepts of the fight. First, we skill down the nodes, we fix the statues, and then we kill Croesus. You'll gather resources in your corner. The shiny is good, the rotten is bad, the one that's neither is fine. But meanwhile, you're going to be avoiding the nasty things that Croesus throws at you. Don't stand in the blankets on the ground. There's a little fairy ring that pops up under your feet and teleports you. There's a blob that chases you. There's a yucky thing that chonks you on the head. And those blankets of skill drain are bad. You'll learn how to avoid these mechanics, and they come at fixed and predictable intervals that continue throughout the fight. They lower your skills, and they enrage Croesus. After a while, though, it'll start to feel natural predicting them and avoiding them. You're going to take your resources where they're supposed to go, and they might get rotted along the way if you get hit by the nasty things that Croesus throws at you. So that's why we take extra, because each statue needs 15. Figure if you bring 3 extra, you'll still have the 15 you need when you arrive at your destination. When the statues have their required resources, we restore them. Once they're restored, we eventually pray at the statues and then move in to kill Croesus. An important side note for this fight, there is no death. It's a safe fight. If you make mistakes, it lowers your stats temporarily, and that's why we bring the super restore flasks. Because not only does that make it harder to accomplish your goals, like skilling on your node or killing Croesus at the end, but also if they get too low, which you'll notice from the bar that's over your head, if they get too low, it'll yeet you out of the arena, which is annoying, but not deadly. So you're not going to lose money, you're not going to die, you're not going to lose your gear. You just get yeeted out and have to either watch on the sidelines while your teammates finish the kill or while everybody else teleports out and starts over, and it's no big deal. Okay, next I'm going to go over a little bit of terminology here. Stuff that you'll hear throughout the fight that's actually going to be really helpful for you to know ahead of time. One of those is when we talk about long and short. Long means going from one node or statue that you're at to two away, and we always go in a counterclockwise manner. So everybody keeps going, the flow is always in the same direction, and that way people can pick up stuff along the way if they need to. But long means going to the opposite corner. Short means going one statue away from your current location. So just one little jump over. If you hear somebody say mid, or if you see in the chat mid, stop what you're doing and go to the middle of the arena to help destroy the fungus at Croesus' base. Pray is usually a question or a command regarding the timing of praying at the statues once they're restored. Praying at the statues opens up Croesus for attack so we can kill it. This needs to be properly coordinated, as praying too early or too late can cause disaster. Rot means acquiring 10 rotten resources and using them on a dead boss node. This prevents them from regenerating after you've skilled them down. This needs to be done on each one of the dead bosses, and typically how we do our rotations are we go long with resources, we get resources out of the box and go short, and then we rot at that destination, or we rot before we leave on our trip to go long and short. So when people say long, short, rot, or rot, long, short, things like that, that's the order of what you're going to be doing those things in. And now that I say that, I remember lately we've been doing rot first, so just make sure you check. And that's just about making sure that that dead boss stays dead. Another thing you'll hear is contribution. You get contribution from doing stuff. More contribution means more loot for you at the end. If you move slow and need help, that's okay. Other people just get a bigger piece of the pie. You're rewarded for doing better, but you're not penalized for doing worse. We talk about a minefield. That's tricky to traverse. It's one of the routes. So in between statues or in between the dead boss nodes, there are two different things. There's the minefield and there's the mushrooms. The minefield is tricky to traverse because, as we know, the toughest skill in Runescape isn't Slayer or Dungeoneering or Archaeology or anything. The toughest skill in Runescape is just walking. So take it slow, one square at a time if you have to. Someday you'll surge right on through it like you got soap on your feet. The mushrooms, though, that one's a lot easier. Mushrooms is a bit ambiguous because there's a lot of mushrooms in this fungal fight, but it's the easier of the two routes to run. You just got to click on the shiny mushrooms, but don't spam click on them because their hitboxes actually work, unlike any other hitbox in RuneScape. Go figure. I've left out a lot of the picky details in this video because there's a lot to memorize, and there are other more in-depth guides that can teach you these things if you wish to do further research. It was really daunting and complicated to me at first, the fight. But these are the things that I wish I knew before my first attempt at Croesus, so that's why I'm sharing them in this video. The fight is best done in a group chat with your teammates on Discord because communication is key in this fight, so don't hesitate to ask questions. Any item or ability or perk I mention in here can be found on the Runescape wiki. Runescape has an amazing wiki, and I use it for everything. And the PvME Discord has a really good strategy guide with advanced tips and tricks. So now we're to the bonus footage. As far as extra gear and helpful items is concerned, Crystal Mask is phenomenal. I use it all the time in the fight. If you have access to it, you should definitely be using it. It makes things really just a lot easier. And just so bring runes for Crystal Mask and make sure you're on the Ancient Spellbook. It's a Saren spell, so if you don't have those unlocked from doing, I think it's the Light Within quest or something, don't worry about it. But if you have it, it's really helpful. I just use it whenever it's not active so that it goes back to being active, because it basically eats the nasty stuff that Croesus throws at you, so you can just keep on skilling and not take stat reduction. The Pontifex Observation. Oh, and you can put those in a grasping rune pouch too, because it's 4 different types of runes to cast Crystal Mask. Put them in a grasping rune pouch, 1 inventory spot, bada bing, bada boom. And you can even equip it because you don't need anything else in your ammo slot. Pontifex Observation Ring is great, and you should bring it, upgrade it if you can. If you don't know what it is, do the quests, look it up, or just go without it. Honestly, you'll be fine. If you happen to have an Orthan Furnace core, bring it, because if you have it equipped, you don't need to actually bring protein logs and use them to get the nasty stuff off of your feet. You can just use your Orthan Furnace core. So that's 1 extra free inventory space. And if you have an Artificer's Measure, bring it as well. It makes restoring the statues a lot faster. Double Surge and access to Bladed Dive are helpful. So if you're familiar with those things, use them. It makes traveling around a lot easier. And the archaeology, there's a new archaeology perk that does something like it gives you the mobile perk at all times and lets you Bladed Dive while only having a main hand weapon, which is really nice because then I can just have Orthan Furnace core in offhand and like a hatchet or something in the main hand, and boom, you're good to go. If you can make extreme hunter potions, those are phenomenal. I suggest bringing them even if hunter isn't the main node that you're going to be doing, like even if that's not your role for the fight at the end with Croesus, or just if you've got to pick up after somebody else, having the extreme hunter potions is phenomenal. You really don't need the magic butterfly net, despite what other people say. It's a hassle to get it. Don't worry about it if you don't have a magic butterfly net. Just bring an extreme hunter potion, you'll be fine. Familiars do work in the arena, but I haven't noticed a significant change with them. Having crystal chinchampas in your inventory can be really helpful. It's not super necessary, but it can make skilling go a lot faster. If you bring the crystal fishing rods perk is bugged and doesn't proc in the fight with Croesus for some reason. So that's why you see all the guides saying that you should bring a fishing rod-o-matic with the honed perk on it. I had to make one and put the honed perk on it because I didn't have one. Obviously, I just had a crystal fishing rod. That's the scoop on that. Crystal hatchet works fine. The honed perk works really good there because you want to gather a lot of resources. Another perk. And then for mining, crystal pickaxe, pickaxe of earth and song, whatever you've got, use that. And that's all I can think of as far as gear is concerned. If you have any other helpful tips, definitely leave them in the comments. I'm sure they'll be helpful to somebody. And other than that, I think I think all there's left to talk about is the loot. The big drops from Croesus are the Crypt Bloom armor pieces, the Santa's fire torch, and the Tornglong's core hammer. So make sure that if you get one of those drops, you're really happy because they're worth a lot of money and they're good drops. So is the Taga's core hammer. That's what it's called. I didn't need to make it harder than it had to be. Oh, and then the last thing too is the Scripture of Bic. That's a really good. So if you see manuscript of Bic, you'll see that a lot. Those are still worth pretty good money, and the common drops are worth pretty good money too. And the Crypt Bloom armor, the Scripture of Bic, the core hammer, the seed bag. There's a lot of cool drops that you can get from Croesus, and we don't split any drops typically. It's keeps. So anything that you get, that's yours. Otherwise, if it's discussed that people want to do splits at the start, then you can expect to split the gear if somebody gets a rare drop or something. But typically, it's just you get what you get. So if somebody gets a rare drop, you keep it, and you're really happy because now you're a bazillionaire for minimal effort and very low risk. So that's kind of that's what you need to know about the boss as far as getting in the front door. Just make sure you've got those absolute essential gear and try and avoid the mechanics the best you can. Try and make sure you get your resources where they need to go when they need to go there. And just follow instructions, listen to the call-outs in your group chat in Discord or wherever. And don't be afraid to ask questions because people really want to help you. I'm sure you'll do great at Croesus, and let me know how your fight goes. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments or shoot me a message. Other than that, happy PVMing, happy skilling, and good luck. Thanks.